candles. Stable and supportive. Why do you think I picked a candle for these lovely, warm, stable and supportive people? Why candle? What do you think about when you go to a candlelight dinner? Or tell me about the atmosphere at a candlelight dinner.
Peaceful.
Peaceful, intimate, right. Right? You don't light a candle if you're only going to go through the buffet line, scarf it down and leave. Right? I mean, usually a candlelight dinner means we're going to settle in for a while. We're going to fellowship. We're going to enjoy one another. It's a very warm setting. So I use a candle because of that. That's what a candle portrays. So your S personalities are usually people who are very loyal friends. They're people oriented, but they tend to like a smaller group setting, where the I is fine with the big group. An S person, or the S side of a person, can be, I'm ready for the small, intimate friendship, 2 or 3 people. Now, these folks reflect God's characteristics in His steadiness, His patience and long-suffering. These are very loyal, long-suffering folks. God wants a deep, meaningful relationship with His people. That's the S. That's how the S's reflect. They want a friendship for many years. You guys probably have friends you have been friends with for years and years and years, and very, very loyal to them. And that's a wonderful thing. Everybody needs a few S's in their lives, because these folks are the ones that will take you as you are. They will be extremely patient and long-suffering, even to the point of not healthy, unfortunately. There's times that you would let something go to the point where it's not healthy. Now, people in the Bible that are probably S personality, Abraham is probably one. He just he believed God and stepped out in faith, even though sometimes he messed up a little bit. But his journey of God was with God, once God called him, was long and loyal, and he was credited for that. And Dorcas in the New Testament was a lady who was in the background and made coats. What are some positive things about S personalities? Tell me a few more thoughts about this table here. What are some wonderful things about the ladies at this table because they're S personalities? What do you think?
Patience.
Patient, yes. What else?
They're kind.
Kind, yes. Kind and pleasant.
Loyal.
Loyal. What do you think they feel about conflict? Don't like it. Do not like conflict at all. They're very easygoing. So they're easy to be around, but they're also easy to take advantage of, because they don't tend to speak up about their own needs sometimes. They can have a lot of wisdom because of their loyalty and long-suffering and observation of life, and they tend to be good listeners compared to being very talkative, so they'll take in a lot of wisdom in life. But sometimes you don't really get to mine it out because they're not inclined to push it on you. Okay? They're going to kind of stand in the background until somebody asks them, and even then you may have to pull it out of them. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. So this sounds like a perfect personality right here, doesn't it? I mean, this sounds like this S personality is the perfect personality. No. What challenges? And I'll let you guys, I'm going to make you come out of your comfort zone and tell us, what is some challenges as an S person might you have that you think, might be a little bit of a not good thing?
Not pleasing other people.
Too involved in pleasing others. Good. Anything else?
Peacekeeper.
Yeah. And in the class we had this summer, we talked about the difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. These folks would be inclined to peacekeep. Keep the peace. I'm not going to do anything about this situation. I don't want a lot of conflict. But peacemaking is really more important, right? We learned that in this class, that to keep a false peace is really not keeping true peace, not keeping a good peace. But to make peace, sometimes you have to stir things up and deal with it. Won't say anything sometimes. So if I had lit this candle and I just kept squashing it, what would happen if I just kept covering that candle up? What would happen to the flame? Burn out. It would just burn out. It would get to the point where I'm burnt out and I don't care and I'm withdrawing. And their way of coping sometimes is just withdraw. And sometimes the rest of us have to be careful, because we may be shocked at how an S may respond to something when they've gotten overstressed. They've never said anything. They've always been easygoing, and suddenly they blow up. Like if we put gas on there, they would suddenly blow up. Where did that come from? Okay? Because they've gone and they've gone and they've gone, and suddenly they blow up. And that's because you haven't allowed yourself to express those feelings that need to be expressed in a proper way, and then suddenly you shock everybody when you just go ballistic or whatever. So you have to be, there are ways to express and deal with conflict in a healthier way that S's need to learn how to do. And they're very sensitive, so they could get feelings hurt maybe more easily than the rest of us in the room. You know, some of us may let things roll, but they may take it so seriously that they're, like if their work is criticized or something, you know, that kind of thing. So, that's some of your challenges. They're also slow to change, actually. They like things kind of predictable. And so sometimes it's difficult because, you know, they don't want things to change. They kind of like everything the way, you know, it's always been, so that there's no conflict, and we're happy, and everybody's happy and loyal, okay? So that's the challenge they have. Some examples of service in the church or jobs that's good for S's. Some secretaries, administrative assistants, some, not everyone, but often you will find an outgoing man or woman, a D or I, has an S or a C, we'll get to C, secretary, because they will think of the details that the D's or the I's don't always think of. Nurses, some people in the medical field, because if they're, you might like an S nurse because they are sensitive and they're willing to sit and talk with you one-on-one, as compared to maybe a D nurse who just comes, injects you with the medicine and leaves. Okay? The S will be very here, let's make it comfortable for you and all that kind of thing. People who work with the elderly, like if there's a ministry for the elderly, a visitation to the elderly, an S would be a great personality for that, because they're good listeners and they would be fine with listening to an older person tell a story that, you know, maybe they've heard before. They're okay with hearing it again. Now, worship styles, they tend to like maybe a calmer environment and not really a wild service. Somewhat predictable. Still, it doesn't have to be super predictable necessarily, but somewhat comfortable. Something they've been involved with for years. They probably like messages that kind of are sort of feel-good messages, and maybe a little uncomfortable with messages that kind of prick you a little bit about change. They may rather come out feeling inspired rather than motivated, you know, at going to church. They want to go to church to be comforted. And that's not always good. You need to be willing to be provoked sometimes, but overall you might like to be comforted, so you might tend to go to a church, you know, or hear like certain preachers that are a little bit more comforting in their approach than really provoking in their approach. And then if we need to interact with you, here are some tips for all the rest of us in interacting with these ladies. For one thing, since these ladies are so agreeable, they have a hard time making decisions sometimes. Now, I hope you all understand, because you're a blend, sometimes what I'm saying is not going to 100% apply to you, okay, but we're just trying to, so we need to help them make their choice. We need to say, basically, let's think of lunch after church. Would you like to go to Applebee's today? Yes or no? That's all I want. Yes or no? Do not say, where would you like to go to lunch today? Because what are they going to say?
Where would you like to go?
Whatever you want. Wherever you want to go. That's fine. Doesn't matter to me. And boy, that can get to a D, can't it? Don't you guys want them to make a decision sometimes? So you have to set them up to make the decision. Just like they have to make you feel powerful, you have to make them stay out of conflict and just say, can we go to Applebee's? Yes or no? And they'll probably still say, I don't care. But you can at least set it up where they'll try to set it up where they will make a decision. They also like to be part of a team. Okay, so if they're working on a project, they like to be part of a team of maybe 2 or 3 people. Not necessarily a huge group, but 2 or 3 people. Like if you need somebody to fill communion cups, you know, get 2 or 3 of them to do it. They would like that because then they can build a relationship. They like to build a relationship over time. So anything you can do to put them relational where they can have, and they're very, I know for a fact they're loyal because one of them has come to every class I've taught since I've worked here, okay? And she's loyal. I mean, I pretty much can count on it. You know, someday if she doesn't come to my class, I will just fall apart. No, seriously. But she's loyal. I mean, that's just, you know, and I appreciate that.